Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I am going to discuss about the next concepts in the plant kingdom. So that is about the pteridophytes. So in previous video we completed bryophytes, isn't it? So where you have studied about the general characters of bryophytes and classification of bryophytes. So continuation in the same chapter. So now I am going to explain about the general characters of pteridophytes and also about the classification of pteridophytes. Okay. So let us begin with the pteridophytes. Okay. See, pteridophytes, the name is given for these groups of plants, pteridophyta. For these groups of plants, mainly because of the nature of their leaves. Okay. See, pteron means pteridophyta. So where pterido, it comes from the word what is called as pteron. It means feather. Pteron, it means feather. So what is the relationship between these, the pteron and the feather as well as the pteridophyta? It means that those plants which bear feather-like leaves, these plants which bear feather-like leaves, they bear feather-like leaves. That's why they were regarded as, or they were named as pteridophytes. The plants which bear feather-like leaves, that's why they are named as pteridophytes. Okay. See, there are around 400 living as well as fossils genera can be seen in pteridophytes. Pteridophytes were represented by around 400 genera, that includes both the living as well as the fossil forms. So, and they consist of around 10,500 species. They consist of around 10,500 species. So, there are about 400 genera that consists of 10,500 species, and they have evolved 400 million years ago. Pteridophytes have been evolved 400 million years ago. Especially in the Silurian period. In the Silurian period of Paleozoic era. Okay. So, and they were very much flourished. They dominated the Earth's surface. So, in the Devonian period. They dominated the Earth's surface in the Devonian period. So, I am talking about the geographical time scale. So, that indicates that is nothing but the study of past history of the Earth. Okay. So, pteridophytes have been evolved 400 million years ago. So, they were, that is in Silurian period. And they have flourished the Earth's surface. It means they dominated the Earth's surface in the Devonian period. Okay. So this is about the origin of pteridophytes. So when they evolved. So pteridophytes, the name mainly comes from because of the feather-like leaves. Those plants which bear feather-like leaves, they were what is called as pteridophytes. Okay. So let us discuss about the general characters of pteridophytes. So what are the characters that can be seen in pteridophytes? Okay. So let us discuss one by one the general characters of pteridophytes. The first thing is the plant body. The plant body, remember this, the plant body of pteridophytes, see here, this is a sporophyte. The plant body of pteridophyte is said to be the sporophyte. You remember this one. Okay. So what is the plant body here? The plant body of a pteridophyte is sporophyte. So remember in bryophytes, the plant body of bryophytes, it is gametophyte, isn't it? So where that plant body that produces a gamete, and gametophyte is a dominant plant body in bryophytes. Dominant means it is a conspicuous one, it is a photosynthetic one, it is a visible one, it is an independent feature in bryophytes, that is the gametophyte. But in contrast to bryophytes, the pteridophytic plant body, it is sporophyte. This is the dominant plant body in pteridophytes. This is a visible, a conspicuous one, and it is an independent feature. Whereas in bryophytes, the sporophytic plant body is a dependent feature, but in case of pteridophytes, the sporophyte is a dominant plant body. Remember, this is a very important thing. This is a dominant plant body and it is an independent feature. From pteridophytes onwards, the plant body in the plant groups, it is the sporophyte. That is, in pteridophytes, gymnosperms as well as in angiosperm, the dominant plant body it is sporophyte. Okay. So hence here the plant body is said to be the sporophyte. Then the sporophytic plant body, This is dominant one. Remember, this is a dominant plant body. Independent photosynthetic dominant plant body. It is nutritionally independent. But in bryophytes, nutritionally the sporophyte is dependent. Here the sporophyte is nutritionally, it is independent, dominant, visible, conspicuous plant body. Okay. So then the sporophyte of pteridophytes, it is mainly differentiated into root, stem. Remember, these are not thalloid plants. It is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. The sporophyte is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. Okay, this is not the thalloid plant body. Okay. Remember the next point, roots are the primary roots. Primary roots means once the spore has germinated, once the gametophyte that develops into sporophyte, no, at that time the primary root will develop. The primary roots are ephemeral in nature. Ephemeral means they are short-lived. They are short-lived. Primary roots are ephemeral in nature. Ephemeral means they are short-lived. Means they do not live for longer time. The roots I am talking about. The primary roots, it means the root that is first formed, the major root, that is short-lived, that is ephemeral. So later on, what about the roots? Once the root is short-lived, so then these ephemeral roots, they were replaced by the adventitious roots. They are replaced by adventitious roots. It means they are not the main root, they are not the primary root. So primary roots are short-lived, hence ultimately they were replaced by adventitious roots. Okay. So hence the plant body is mainly differentiated into root, stem and leaves. Okay. Then the stem in some of the pteridophytes. The stem in some of the pteridophytes, it is underground. The stem in some pteridophytes, it is underground, and that is what is called as the rhizome. An underground horizontally placed stem. Horizontally, the stem in some pteridophytes, it is underground and it is horizontally placed beneath the surface of soil. It is horizontally placed beneath the surface of soil. Such a stem is said to be the rhizome. Okay, stem in some pteridophytes, it is said to be rhizome. So what is a rhizome? A rhizome is an underground stem and it is horizontally placed beneath the surface of the soil. So that is what is called as the rhizome. Okay. So in other members of the pteridophytes, where the stem is aerial in nature. Aerial means it is found above the surface of the soil. In some species, for example, in case of the Psilotum and other species where the stem is rhizome or underground. In other members, the stem is aerial in nature. Okay. Aerial means it is found above the surface of the soil. The stem showing branches. The stem is showing branches. Okay. It is showing branches and the branches may be monopodial. Monopodial means only one direction the branching will take place. The branching may be monopodial, or we can see dichotomous branching. It means seen in the thallus of bryophytes, especially in the thallus of Marchantia. So there you can see dichotomous branching. So like this, two equal branches are produced at regular intervals. Two equal branches which are produced at regular interval. Such a branching is what is called as dichotomous branching. Branching, it may be on only one side, that is monopodial, or two branches, equal branches which are produced. Okay, such a branching is what is called as dichotomous branching. Okay, so then about the leaves. Okay, see the leaves in pteridophytes. There are two kinds of leaves can be seen. Pteridophytes can be classified based on the leaves into two categories, like microphylous pteridophytes and macrophylous pteridophytes. Okay, the leaves in pteridophytes are of two kinds. So based on that, the pteridophytes can be classified into microphylous pteridophytes and macrophylous pteridophytes. See, microphylous pteridophytes are the plants so where they have very simple and small leaves. The leaves are simple and they are small. They bear very small and simple leaves. Okay. What is the small and simple leaf? See here, the leaves are very much small in nature and they have a single vein. They have a single vein in the center and the leaves are simple. Okay, the leaves are small and simple. So such leaves, such pteridophytic plants are said to be microphylous pteridophytes. So for example, like Selaginella. The pteridophytes like Selaginella and Lycopodium. So where we can see very simple leaves, and these leaves are simple and they are small in nature. So those pteridophytes are said to be microphyllous pteridophytes. Okay. So then the macrophyllous pteridophytes, so where as the name itself suggests, macrophyllous, macro means large, phylla means leaves. So those plants which bear larger leaves, macrophyllous. Macro means small, phylla means leaves. Macrophyllous pteridophytes means those pteridophytes which bear large leaves, large pinnately compound leaves. Large pinnately compound leaves with a petiole. With a petiole. Petiole means the stalk of the leaf. The large pinnately compound leaf with the petiole. Petiole means the stalk of the leaves. For example, if the leaves are large, so where it bears very small leaf-like structure. So have you seen curry leaves? So in curry leaves, what happens? There are many number of leaf-like structures are arranged on a stalk, no? There are many number of leaf-like, very small leaf-like structures which are arranged on a common stalk, isn't it? So such a leaves are said to be pinnate leaves. So it is more about the pinnate leaves. Okay, so explain ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ pinnate leaves ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ. It means the leaves in which lamina ಅಂದ್ರೆ leaf blade ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, that is divided into many small leaf-like units. They were what is called as pinna or leaflet. ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು ಕರ್ಬೇವಿನ ಸೊಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, the leaf, the main leaf ಅದಷ್ಟು leaf ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ you see the curry leaves ಈ ಥರ ಅರೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ದ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಲೀಫ್. ಇದಿಷ್ಟು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಒಂದೇ ಲೀಫ್, ಇದು ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಒಂದೇ ಲೀಫ್, ಇದು ಒಂದೊಂದು ಲೀಫ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. These are what is called as leaflets. This entire thing is a leaf, a single leaf, and these small leaf-like structures, they are what is called as leaflets or pinna. Here what happened, the main leaf or the lamina, it is divided into, differentiated into small leaf-like units. Okay, so this is not a single leaf, this is not an individual leaf, this is a leaflet. This entire thing is leaf. Similarly here also, this entire thing is leaf, and these are the leaflets. Okay, so such leaves are said to be pinnately compound leaf. They are said to be compound leaf. Okay, so and they are with a petiole. Petiole means they have a stalk. So there are two kinds of pteridophytes based on the leaves. As I said, the microphyllous pteridophytes and the macrophyllous pteridophytes. Microphyllous pteridophytes with a small leaf, small sessile. Sessile means they do not have stalk. Small leaf with a single vein. Whereas the macrophyllous pteridophytes, they are large. Leaves are large. Okay. So and they are pinnately compound. For example, like in Teres and Adiantum. In pteridophytic plants like Teres and Adiantum, so where we can see the larger leaves are pinnately compound leaves. Okay. So the leaves may be simple or the leaves may be compound. So that is pinnately compound leaves can be seen in the plants like Teres as well as in Adiantum or in Angiopteris. It means in the advanced members of pteridophytes, you can see pinnately compound leaves and leaves with a petiole. Petiole means the stalk of the leaf. Okay. So then the advanced members of pteridophytes, say as ferns. In ferns are said to be the advanced members of the pteridophytes. So where the leaves, the younger leaves, this is very important for 1 mark. The younger leaves, they show a condition what is called as circinate vernation. Circinate vernation. What is this circinate vernation? See here, circinate vernation is nothing but coiling of younger leaves. Coiling of younger leaves. You might have seen in images. Okay, go to Google and check it like circinate vernation. So where you will see various images that is showing coiling of younger leaves like this. The younger leaves in pteridophytes, especially in the fern, in the advanced members of the pteridophytes, that is show coiling like this. So later upon they unfold. Okay, so later when the leaves start maturing, so they unfold and they enlarges. But the younger leaves, they show coiling like this. Coiling of younger leaves is what is called as circinate vernation. So that can be seen in advanced pteridophytes, especially in the members of ferns. Okay, so that condition is what is called as circinate vernation. Okay, then this is very important for 1 marks. some pteridophytes they lack leaves. In some of the pteridophytes there were no leaves. Okay, so where the leaves are too much reduced and stem will perform the function of photosynthesis. Where in some of the pteridophytes the leaves are reduced. Okay, so the leaves are reduced to very small scaly leaves. The leaves are reduced to very small scaly leaves. And the leaves iralla, but they have some small structures like their what is called as the scaly leaves like this. And stem will perform the function of photosynthesis. I'm writing the stem of a pteridophyte here. So for example, like in Xylotum, okay, as well as in Equisetum also. So where they bear some small scale-like leaves. Small leaves are present. Okay, so these small leaf-like structures, they are what is called as scales, scaly leaves. Okay, so where that can be seen in some of the pteridophytes like Xylotum as well as in Equisetum. So where we can see what we call scaly leaves. Okay, there are no leaves and stem will perform the function of photosynthesis, and there are very small minute structures which are present on the surface of the stem, and that is what is called as the scaly leaves. Okay, then when we see the anatomical structure of the pteridophytes, especially the anatomy of the stem, by this nature of the pteridophytes were popularly called as vascular cryptogams. Vascular cryptogams. That's why pteridophytes were regarded as vascular cryptogams because of this nature. So now I'm going to discuss about this vascular cryptogams. So when you see the anatomical feature or the internal feature of the pteridophytes, a stem or a root, mainly they possess the vascular structures like xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem. So because of this development of xylem and phloem, they are nothing but the vascular structures, isn't it? So that's why pteridophytes are said to be vascular cryptogams. You know what are cryptogams? The plants bearing spores. Those plants are said to be cryptogams. So whereas these pteridophytic plants, they bear xylem and phloem internally. They have conducting strands, and the conducting strands that consists of xylem and phloem. You know that xylem is a water conducting tissue, whereas phloem is a food conducting tissue. First time the vasculature that is appeared in the plant kingdom, that is from the pteridophytes. That's why pteridophytes are said to be the first true land plants. Because of the presence of vascular structures, pteridophytes are said to be first true land plants. They are the first true land plants because the development of vasculature is very much essential to survive in a terrestrial habitat or to survive in a land. Because the plant has to absorb water and minerals from the soil, so then it has to transport it to entire plant body. Okay, so if they are found in water, for example like in algae, no need of development of vascular structures, but when they entered into land, they has to absorb the water, they has to drag the water and the minerals from the soil, so then there is a need for vasculature. Hence pteridophytic plants for the first time they shows vascular structures like xylem and phloem. That's why pteridophytes are regarded as vascular cryptogams. Okay, so and they are the first true land plants. Pteridophytes are the first true land plants, so where they show vasculatures like xylem and phloem. Okay. So when it comes to the stele in pteridophytes is of various types. So then what is this stele? Stele andre no. A stele is nothing but, for example, I am writing here a cross section of a stem, a transverse section of a stem a transverse section of a stem of a pteridophyte. Basically what is a stele? And this transverse section, you observe any slide under a microscope, under a compound microscope, especially the anatomical structures of the stem or the root. You observe the structures of stem or a root inside a microscope. So where you will find a central region, you will find a dark central region that is situated exactly in the center. Okay, and this central region is what is called as a stele. The central portion. This is what is regarded as a stele. Idu nenendu karithina ನಾವು stele anta karithina. Andre ಏನು stele andre? A stele is a core of an axis. For example, if this is the stem, internally the stem that consists of the stele, the central core of an axis is what is called as a stele. Andre ಒಂದು axis na central core na ನಾವು stele anta karithೀವಿ. The central core of an axis is what is called as a stele. Axis means whether it is a root or a stem. Okay, it is just like axis, no? The stem or a root, where it consists of a central portion. The central portion, the central core of an axis is what is regarded as a stele. That encloses the vascular structures like xylem, phloem, then pith, everything, the pericycle, every structures which are found inside the stele. Okay, ಮಧ್ಯದ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಕೋರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಸ್ಟೆಮ್ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ the central part of the axis, the central core of the axis, that is what is regarded as a stele, and that stele includes the vascular structures, the pericycle and the pith, all those structures which are present. So you came to know in detail about those in the next upcoming chapters, okay, like in anatomy of flowering plants. So where you came to know about the entire structures, the detailed structures of the stele. Okay, just remember what is a stele. A stele is a central core of an axis. It may be stem or it may be a root also. Okay, where that mainly encloses the vascular structures like xylem and phloem, the pith and the pericycle. Okay, so the stele in pteridophytes, it is of various types. Okay, so like protostele, then siphonostele, then dictyostele and polycyclic stele. There are different types of stele can be seen in pteridophyte. Protostele, then siphonostele, then dictyostele and polycyclic stele. Okay, there are 4 different kinds of stele can be seen in pteridophytes, like protostele, siphonostele, dictyostele and polycyclic stele. These are 4 major types. So again there are different types, subtypes over there that they can be seen. Okay, but you know this much about the protostele, siphonostele, dictyostele and polycyclic stele. So what is this protostele? So I think you got an idea about stele, isn't it? So now what is this protostele? Protostele means this is a primitive, here this is a primitive stele or early form stele. And you remember this is without, this type of stele is without pith. This type of stele is without pith. Then what is this pith? Pith antandre a stele, you know, the central core of an axis that consists of centrally situated parenchyma cells. That central core that consists of stele is a central core, and that central core that consists of centrally situated parenchyma cells. So here surrounding these structures were all xylem and phloem that can be seen here. Xylem and phloem can be seen, and the central part of the stele that is occupied by the centrally situated parenchyma cells, and that is what is known as a pith. Okay, so where the central portion, this is a stele, the central core of an axis is what is called as a stele, and this stele again in the center that consists of a mass of parenchyma cells, and that is what is called as a pith. Okay, if the stele is having the pith, that's said to be, that is what is called as the eustele or a siphonostele. Siphon means it is mediated by a pith. It is also called as mediated pith anta kariತೀವಿ. So ಯಾವ stele ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ pith ಅನ್ನೋ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ, such type of stele is said to be protostele. A protostele is without the pith. Pith ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಾವು ಏನಂತೀವಿ, protostele ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. This is also called as, protostele can be also known as non-medulated stele. Non-medulated means it is not mediated by the pith. Pith is absent in the center. Okay, such stele is said to be the protostele or non-medulated stele. Okay, so such a type of stele can be seen in plants like the pteridophytic plants like Psilotum and Lycopodium. Plants like Psilotum and Lycopodium, then Selaginella. In these plants we can see the protostele. Okay, then the next type of stele is siphonostele. Siphonostele means the stele which consists of pith in the center. The stele which consists of pith in the center. So I have written the diagram now. So where the stele that shows pith in the center, ಯಾವ stele ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ core ಅಲ್ಲಿ pith ಇರುತ್ತೋ, such a stele is what is called as the siphonostele. Okay, so this is also known as the medulated stele. Medulated because at the center it consists of the stele. It is a medulated stele. Okay, siphonostele means the medulated stele. The stele can be seen in the center of the pith can be seen in the center of the stele. Okay, so such a type of stele is what is called as siphonostele. Okay, so that can be seen, for example, in the members of Equisetum. equisetum. In plants like equisetum, so where we can see the siphonosteal. Okay. Then what is this dictyostele? See, a condition where the main stele is divided into many small steles. A main stele that is divided into many small steles, and each stele is what is known as a meristele. The main stele is divided into many small steles. So main stele ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ split ಆಗಿ small steels ಆಗಿ convert ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Each one is what is called as a meristele. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಏನಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ ನಾವು meristele ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. Meristele. The main stele is divided into many smaller steles. Okay, so such a condition is what is called as meristeles, and that type of stele is what is known as dictyostele. ಅದನ್ನ dictyostele ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಮೇನ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಇರೋಂಥ ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಪ್ಲಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸ್ಪ್ಲಿಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಮೆನಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲರ್ ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Such a stele is said to be meristele. Okay, those smaller steels are called as meristeles, and that type of stele is what is called as dictyostele. Okay, so where that can be seen in plants like Osmunda and Teres. Okay, that can be seen in plants like dictyostele can be seen in plants like Osmunda and Teres. Okay, so that is what is called as the dictyostele. So then see the ಈ ತರ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೀಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ಸಿಇಟಿ ನಲ್ಲೂ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು. ವಿಚ್ ಅಮಾಂಗ್ ದ ಫಾಲೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಶೋಯಿಂಗ್ dictyostele or protostele or siphonosteal ಅಂತ, ಅಥವಾ the stele in xylotomies or stele in lycopodiumes. So likewise such questions may be asked. Okay, so then the last one is polycyclic stele. Polycyclic stele. Okay, polycyclic stele is nothing but the stele is found in many number of rings, in many rings like this. If the stele is found in many rings, ring form a libre. It means this is one ring, this is another ring, another ring. If the stele is found in the form of a ring, many rings, such a stele is what is called as polycyclic stele. Okay, so that can be seen in plants like Marsilia. That can be seen in plants like Marsilia, not Marchantia. Marchantia is a bryophytic member. Marsilia is a pteridophyte. Polycyclic stele. So it means the stele is found in many rings. Many rings ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಾವೇನಂತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ polycyclic stele ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Okay, so this is about the stele. So then, and also the another thing about the pteridophytes usually they are the terrestrial plants. So you know about that. They are the first true land plants or the terrestrial plants. So they are not only found on the land. Some of the pteridophytes they are even found in water. It means aquatic pteridophytes also can be seen. So for example, like Azolla, Marsilia and Salvinia. So these are some aquatic pteridophytes. It means they are also found in water. Okay, not only they are terrestrial, they are also found in water like Azolla, Marsilia and Salvinia. They are aquatic in nature. And some pteridophytes they are even xerophytic in nature. Xerophytic means they are found in desert conditions. Some pteridophytes are even xerophytic in nature. They are found in desert conditions, dry areas. Okay, so for example, like the species of Selaginella, like Selaginella rupestris. So where it can be found in dry condition, it can grow in dry condition. So usually they prefer pteridophytes. Usually they prefer moist and shady environment. Okay, but there are some unusual conditions where they grow. Like they can be grow as xerophytes. Xerophytes means they grow in dry areas, in dry desert areas. So or they may found in water. So like Azolla, Marsilia and Salvinia, they found in water. Okay. So but the usual habitat for pteridophytes is moist, shady places are the usual habitat for the pteridophytes. Okay. Then about the next thing is about the reproduction. See here, pteridophytes they reproduce mainly by producing the spores. They reproduce mainly by producing spores because mainly the plant body of pteridophyte itself it is sporophyte. You know, so where the plant body that produces the spores, they mainly reproduce by producing the spores. See, based on the nature of the spore, pteridophytes are of two kinds. There are spore producing basis ಮೇಲೆ pteridophytes na classify ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ there are two kinds of pteridophytes can be seen. Two groups can be seen in pteridophytes. One is the homosporous pteridophytes. Homosporous pteridophytes. and the another one is heterosporous pteridophytes. Homosporous and heterosporous pteridophytes. There are two kinds of pteridophytes can be seen based on the nature of the spore they produce. Okay. See, the homosporous pteridophytes means those plants which produce similar kind of spores. Similar kind. There is no differentiation in spores. Those plants which produce similar kind of spores they are said to be homosporous. It means spores which are morphologically similar in size, shape as well as the behavior also. So where the spores which are similar in nature, ಒಂದೇ ತರ ಇರುವಂತ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ such pteridophytes are said to be homosporous pteridophytes. Okay. The second category, for example, like Lycopodium, then Xylotum. Okay. So all of them they produces only one type of spores. So that is what is called as homosporous pteridophytes, similar spores. Then the second condition is what is known as heterosporous pteridophytes. So where these pteridophytes they produce two kinds of spores. They produce two morphologically distinct spores and their physiological behavior is also different. Okay. So if they produce two different kinds of spores, such as pteridophytes are said to be heterosporous pteridophytes. Okay. Heterosporous pteridophytes, they produce two kinds of spores. One is smaller in size. One type of spore which is smaller in size, and those smaller spores are what is called as microspores. And the smaller spores are what is regarded as microspores, and whereas the larger spores which are known as macrospores or megaspores. Macro or megaspores. The larger spores are known as macrospores or megaspores, whereas the smaller spores are known as microspores. Okay. So if such different kinds of spores are produced in pteridophytes, that condition is what is called as heterosporous condition. So for example, like Selaginella, Salvinia, Marsilia, Isoids. So where these plants they produce the heterosporous condition. So okay, Selaginella, Marsilia, Isoids. So these plants they produce two different kinds of spores, like the smaller spores and the larger spores. The smaller ones are called as microspores, and microspores, remember, microspores they germinate to produce male gametophyte. From the microspores, male gametophyte is produced. Male gametophytes are produced from the microspores, and whereas the macrospores or the megaspores that germinates and produces the female gametophyte. That produces the female gametophyte. Okay. So this is about the spores. And the next thing is where the spores are produced. See, the spores are produced inside the structures what is called as sporangia. The spores are produced inside the structure what is called as sporangia. A sporangia that varies in pteridophytes. Okay, so it means the arrangement of sporangia in pteridophytes that varies. Okay. So the spores, main thing, remember the spores are produced inside the structures what is called as sporangia. See, sporangia in pteridophytes, for example, in case of Xylotum, in case of pteridophytic plants what is called as Xylotum, where sporangia they born in the group of three, like this. The sporangia will born in the group of three, and they born at the axils of the scaly leaves. They born at the axils of the axil means this is the stem. Here the scaly leaves develops in this angle. Axil means the angle between. So like this, the angle between the leaf and the stem is what is called as axil. The angle between leaf and stem is regarded as axil. So in the axils of the scaly leaves, the group of three sporangia that develops, and that is what is called as synangium. That is regarded as synangium. Synangium means a group of three sporangia. So this is one condition. So where in case of some pteridophytes like Xylotum, the sporangia they born in the group of three. Within that the spores are produced. Okay, within that the spores are produced, and the group of three sporangia, which is what is called as synangium. Remember, that is regarded as synangium. Okay. So besides this, the sporangia they born on leaves. The sporangia they born on leaves. They born on leaves, and those leaves are what is called as sporophylls. And those leaves are regarded as sporophylls. What is a sporophyll? A sporophyll is a leaf that bears sporangia. Sporangia is born on leaves, and those leaves are considered as sporophylls. There are two kinds of leaves can be seen. It means the normal photosynthetic leaves and the sporophylls. Sporophylls means those leaves which bear sporangia on their surface, especially usually on the ventral side. Okay, on their surface, such leaves are said to be sporophylls. Sporo means the sporangia, phylla means leaves. The sporangia they born on the leaves, and those leaves are considered as sporophylls. And these sporophylls they may aggregate together. They may aggregate together and forming a compact structure in some of the pteridophytes. They aggregate together and forming compact structure what is regarded as strobilus. They aggregate together and forming compact structure, what is called as strobilus. For example, in case of Lycopodium and Selaginella, where many number of sporophylls they aggregate together and forming a compact structure, and that compact structure is what is called as a strobilus, like this. So this is the plant body that bear the compact structure, and this is regarded as the strobilus. Okay, so what is a strobilus? A strobilus is the aggregation of sporophylls leads to the formation of a compact structure, and that compact structure is what is called as the strobilus. Okay, so whereas in some of the pteridophytes where the sporangia they borne along, the sporangia will borne along the ventral side of the leaves. In some pteridophytes the sporangia borne along the on the ventral side of the leaves, and where you can see the sporangia they can borne along. See here I am writing the group of sporangia. So like this, the sporangia they borne along the ventral side of the leaves, on the ventral surface of the leaf, and this condition, see the group of sporangia, the sporangia they borne in group, and the group of sporangia is what is called as sorus. Sporangial group ಗೆ ನಾವು sorus ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. The group of sporangia is called as sorus. Remember, what is sorus? The sorus is a group of sporangia. The sporangia they borne in group on the ventral side of the leaves. In some of the pteridophytes, so for example in case of Teres or Adiantum or Angiopteris or Dryopteris, so where in some of the pteridophytes where sporangia they borne on the ventral side of the leaves in groups, group alli enagutte borne agutte. So the group of sporangia is what is called as sorus. As the sporangia they borne on the ventral surface of the leaves all along the margin of the leaves, and such a condition is what is known as cenosorus condition. Cenosorus means the sporangia they borne along the ventral side of the leaves, along the margin of the leaves. Such a condition is what is regarded as cenosorus. The group of sporangia they borne along the margin of the leaves on the ventral side, that is called as cenosorus. This will be asked for 1 marks. What is cenosorus? Okay. So what is cenosorus condition? It means the sporangia they borne in group along the ventral side of the leaves, along the margin, on the ventral side of the leaf along the margin, that is what is called as cenosorus condition. Okay. Cenosorus condition. Okay. So where sporangia you can see many number of sporangia they group together, that condition is what is called as a sorus. Sorus is a group of sporangia and they borne along the ventral side of the leaves along the margin, that condition is what is known as cenosorus condition. Okay. So as I said, the heterosporous pteridophytes, so where we can see the two kinds of sporophylls. Okay, as they produce two kinds of spores, no, microspores and megaspores. So where microspores are born within microspores, in case of heterosporous pteridophyte, microspores are born within microsporangia. Microspores are born within the microsporangia, and microsporangia they were born on the leaves, what is called as microsporophylls. So this is in case of heterosporous pteridophyte. Microspores they born within microsporangia, and microsporangia can be seen on the leaves what is called as microsporophylls, or the leaves that bears only microsporangia. Those leaves are said to be microsporophylls. Similarly, the macrospores are the megaspores. Megaspores they born within the sporangia what is known as megasporangia. They born within the sporangia what is called as megasporangia, and megasporangia they born on the leaves what is called as megasporophylls. It means the sporophylls that bears only the megasporangia, they were what is called as megasporophylls. The sporophylls that bear only the megasporangia, they were called megasporophylls, and the sporophylls that bears only microsporangia, they were considered as microsporophylls. Okay. Hence, there are two kinds of spores in pteridophytes. Some of the members like Selaginella, Marsilia and Isoids, in some members where we can see the production of two kinds of spores, they are what is called as heterosporous pteridophytes. Okay. So where they differ in size, in morphology, as well as in their behavior. So as I said, the smaller spores, the microspores, they germinates and produces the male gametophyte, whereas the larger spore that germinates and produces the female gametophyte. Okay, so then the spore on germination, the spores, whatever it may be, whether it is homosporous pteridophytes or it may be heterosporous pteridophytes, the spore on germination, they produces the gametophyte, that is what is called as a prothallus. the spore on germination that produces the gametophyte, that is what is called as prothallus. It is named as prothallus mainly because it resembles the thalloid plant body of the bryophytes. Okay, the thallus of the bryophytes in their structure. That's why it is named as prothallus. The spores on germination, it produces the prothallus. Okay, so whereas in homosporous pteridophytes, so where the development of the prothallus is exosporic. Exosporic means the spores which are produced and the spores will come out of the sporangia and fall on the soil. So where the development of the gametophyte is outside the spore wall. And the spore wall ಒಳಗಡೆನೆ gametophyte develop ಆಗಲ್ಲ. Outside the spore wall gametophyte development ಆಗುತ್ತೆ like this. I am writing the thallus, the prothallus. Outside the spore wall. Such a development is said to be exosporic. The development homosporous pteridophytes ಅಲ್ಲಿ the prothallus that is developed outside the spore wall. Such a condition is what is called as exosporic development. Okay. And whereas in case of the heterosporous pteridophytes, where we can see endosporic development. Endosporic development means the gametophyte that is developed within the spore wall. Spore wall ಒಳಗಡೆನೆ gametophyte development ಆದರೆ. If the gametophyte that develops within the spore wall, such a condition is what is called as endosporic. Okay, so found within the spore wall, the gametophyte will develop, and that condition is what is called as endosporic. Okay. Then ultimately the spore that germinates and produces the gametophyte, that is what is called as the prothallus. Okay, so then another condition here is the prothallus are the gametophytic plant body that bear the sex organs. So like Antheridia and Archegonia. The sex organs can be seen here, they are Antheridia and Archegonia. So which is similar to bryophytes. The two kinds of sex organs. The male sex organs are regarded as Antheridia, and whereas the female sex organs are considered as Archegonia. See, the difference is usually the homosporous pteridophytes, they are monoecious. Monoecious means they bear both the sex organs in the same plant body. It means both the Antheridia as well as the Archegonia, they develops within the same thallus. In homosporous pteridophytes, the Archegonia as well as Antheridia, they develops on the same thallus. The condition is what is called as monoecious. Homosporous alli ನಾವು monoecious condition ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ Antheridia, Archegonia ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ thallus ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, monoecious. Whereas the heterosporous pteridophytes are said to be dioecious. Dioecious means they are unisexual because microspore develops into male prothallus and megaspore that develops into female prothallus. ಅಂದ್ರೆ male and female plant bodies separate ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ gametophytic plant body ನೇ separate ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಇಂದ ಮೇಲ್ ಥಾಲಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಮೆಗಾಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಇಂದ ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ಥಾಲಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Hence they are dioecious. It means male and female sex organs, they developed on different plants. They are unisexual. Okay, so that condition is what is called as dioecious. Heterosporous pteridophytes are dioecious, homosporous pteridophytes are monoecious. Okay. Then the male sex organ is what is called as Antheridia and female sex organ is what is called as Archegonia. This is similar in structure with the bryophytes and they are embedded in the thallus. It means they are found embedded in the thallus, or they may be sometimes they may be protruding from the thallus. ಅಂದ್ರೆ thallus ಇಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಂದಿರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ thallus ಒಳಗಡೆನೇ embedded ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. Antheridia is a club shaped body surrounded by jacket cells. So remember the structure of Antheridia of bryophytes. It is a club shaped body surrounded by jacket cells. Antheridia is a club shaped body and it gets surrounded by sterile cells, what is called as the jacket cells. Whereas Archegonia, that consists of similarly the same structure, the neck and the venter. Okay, so similar to bryophytes, Archegonia consists of neck and the venter. Okay, the neck consists of neck canal cells and the venter consists of venter canal cells. So where at the base there will be a presence of egg. During the time of fertilization, the neck canal cells and the venter canal cells, that disintegrates or degrades or degenerates and that oozes out at the mouth of the Archegonia as a mucilaginous mass that is similar to bryophytes. Okay, so here the Archegonia, it is similar in structure with the bryophytes. So where it consists of neck, where the neck is lined by neck canal cells, and where it consists of a venter, it consists of venter and the neck, and there is an egg at the base of the venter. There will be an egg. See, during the time of fertilization, the venter canal cell and the neck canal cell, all of them they disintegrates and oozes out as a mass of mucilaginous mass. Okay, they disintegrates and oozes out in the form of a mucilage. So where that is having some chemicals that attract the anthrozoids for fertilization. Having some chemicals attract anthrozoids for fertilization. So the structure of anthrozoid is also similar. Anthrozoids are unicellular and spirally coiled. They are unicellular and spirally coiled and possess two flagella. The structure of anthrozoid is also similar to that of the bryophytes. They are spirally coiled. Okay, so like this, they are spirally coiled and they are unicellular in nature and they bear two flagella. They bear two flagella. So this is the structure of an anthrozoid, and this is an structure of an archegonia, consists of the neck and venter, and at the base there will be an egg. During the time of fertilization, they also need water. Okay, during the time of pteridophytes also need water for fertilization. During the time of fertilization, so where the neck and the venter canal cell they disintegrates and that oozes out in the form of a mucilaginous mass, and that is having some chemicals that attracts the anthrozoids for fertilization. So where after that anthrozoids are biflagellated spirally coiled structures, so they move towards archegonia. Many number of them they will enter into the archegonia, but ultimately only one anthrozoid that will fuse with the egg. Many number of anthrozoid will enter, then ultimately only one anthrozoid will enter into the venter and that fuses with the egg. The fusion of egg and the anthrozoid, that will form the zygote, isn't it? The result of fertilization is zygote. The fusion of egg and anthrozoid that results in the formation of the zygote. So where later the zygote that develops into embryo, because these plants they produce embryo. Bryophytes also produce embryo. The pteridophytes also produce embryo. Okay, so hence they comes under embryophyta, whereas embryo is absent in our. Okay, so as the fusion of the egg and the anthrozoid that results in the formation of the zygote, and that zygote that develops into embryo. Okay, so where embryo that later that develops into another sporophytic plant body. So remember, zygote is the mother cell of sporophytic generation. Zygote is the mother cell of sporophytic generation, whereas spore is the mother cell of gametophytic generation. So similar to the bryophytes, the pteridophytes also they shows alternation of generation. It means this dominant diploid sporophytic plant body, the sporophytic plant body is diploid in nature and that produces the spores by means of meiosis. You remember that thing, and spores are haploid. Okay, the dominant plant body is diploid, that is sporophyte, that produces spores by means of meiosis, and spores are haploid in nature, and spore is the mother cell of gametophytic generation, because the germination of the spore that results in the formation of the gametophyte, whereas the zygote that results in the formation of the sporophyte, the zygote that divides and produces a embryo, where embryo that later on that develops into a diploid sporophyte. So the pteridophytes also exhibit alternation of generation, especially the dominant plant body of pteridophyte is diploid in nature. Hence, the life cycle that can be seen diplontic phase, a diploid life cycle, a diplontic life cycle. Okay, so where the diploid sporophytic plant body, that is the independent feature, the dominant feature that exhibit alternation with the haploid gametophytic plant body. Okay, so here both the gametophyte and pteridophyte they grow independent, they grow separately. Okay, where sporophyte is a dominant plant body, but not like in bryophytes. So where in bryophytes it is the gametophytic plant body is dominant, in algae also, but here the dominant plant body is sporophyte, that is diploid one, that alternates with the haploid gametophytic plant body. Okay, so that is about the life cycle of pteridophytes. And also one point about the development of sporangia, remember, so where the development of sporangia in pteridophytes it can be of two kinds. Okay, two types of development of sporangia can be seen in pteridophytes. So it may be the eusporangiate type, and leptosporangiate type. There are two kinds of development of sporangia can be seen. One is eusporangiate and leptosporangiate type. Okay, so in eusporangiate type of sporangia development, so where the sporangia that develops from many number of initials, and there many cells which are involved in the formation of sporangia. It is developed from many number of initials. It is what is called as eusporangiate type. So for example, like Lycopodium or Selaginella, in these plants we can see eusporangiate type of development of sporangia. Many cells involved in the development of sporangia. Whereas leptosporangiate type, where the sporangia that developed from only one cell, single cell. So the sporangia that get developed from single cell, it is what is called as leptosporangiate type. Onde cell in the development are the leptosporangiate and the karithi. So for example, in case of teres, in plants like teres, so where we can see the development of sporangia is leptosporangiate, means the sporangia develops from a single cell. Okay, so that is about the development of sporangia. And explained about the general characters of pteridophytes. Okay, so remember all those points like plant body is sporophyte, diploid in nature, stem, it is differentiated into root, stem and leaf, all those things. So in next video, I explain about the classification of pteridophytes, the different classes of pteridophytes. Okay, so this is a very important concept for your examination. See, in exam, 5 marks question is asked on this. Enumerate the general characters or salient features of pteridophytes anta keltare. So I think I have explained about 20 or 25 points. Okay, so write as much as possible, the main highlighted points as much as possible. Okay, so and a very important concept for your examination is concerned. Okay.